Hey everyone, welcome back to the TIMO podcast. I'm Tim Bialik, founder of TIMO Athletics Group, where we help athletes develop both on and off the field. Today's a special episode. If you listen to the previous episode 4, we talked about injury and going through adversity, and I slightly touched on the topic of athletic identity. But today's episode 5, we're going to talk more in depth about athletic identity, about who are you beyond your sport. Today's episode is special. Today's episode, we are diving more into what I think is not talked about enough, but I feel as if it affects every athlete at some point in their life, and that is athletic identity. If you're an athlete, your sport isn't just something you do. It's part of who you are. You know, from the time that we started playing sports, from the time that we were kids, you were known as, the soccer player. Where you are right now, you've always been known as the soccer player or the swimmer or the tennis player or the golf player. Whatever sport you're playing, you were known and you held a very tight niche identity towards that sport. But what people don't recognize is that, this is not the only thing that you can be identified as. This is not solely who you are. Always from, throughout high school, maybe throughout your youth career, people always recognized you by your sport, your schedule, your goals, your friendships, even your future plans maybe. All of it revolved around your identity as an athlete. I feel it. I lived through this experience as well. But what happens when that's, taken away? Like I mentioned in the episode 4, previous podcast, whether it's an injury, not making a team, or maybe it's, the natural end of your career, losing that identity can feel like you're losing yourself. So today, I want to really break down and go more into depth on athletic identity and why it's so important and why it's so powerful and how you can build a stronger sense of yourself beyond your sport. For the most of my life, I played soccer every single day till I was 23 years old. Ever since I started kicking the ball around, I played soccer every single day. I trained every single day. I put in the extra work every single day. I dedicated my life to soccer. When I went into high school, I didn't have that many friends. The only friends that I had were on my soccer team because I was with them every single day after school for 2-3 hours. And then I would be traveling or playing games on the weekends. Every single day, in high school, every single day, my schedule was waking up, going to school all day, straight after school, going to soccer practice, and then being at practice till the dinner time, coming back home, and then having to do homework. And that daily schedule was on repeat. I didn't go to any parties in high school. I rarely had any friends in high school. It was my teammates, my coaches, and my family. And myself. I breathed the game of soccer. I breathed my sport. It shaped my routine. It shaped my friendships. And it even shaped the way I saw myself. Every achievement, every failure, it all felt personal to me because it wasn't just about the game. It was about who I was. Soccer was me. And that even continued on into college. Going into college, same thing. I trained every single day with my teammates. And even when I did go out, to the bars and to parties, it was, oh, you're on the soccer team. That's kind of how I was always introduced. And in the beginning it was great. It was cool. But over time, I started to realize, hey, this is not my only identity. What? I'm not the soccer player, or like that's not who I always am. I believe that I was beyond that being a soccer player. Like, yes, I love playing soccer. Yes, I love being on the team. Don't take me wrong. But, sometimes I question myself after I was like, whoa, like, yeah, I'm on the soccer team, but I don't want to be always introduced as the soccer player because I know that when my time and my career is over as a soccer player, like that's not who I'm going to be. And I had to think for myself of who am I? Who am I beyond soccer? And I really learned this throughout my injuries. When my injuries came, the surgeries, the rehab, that was that first time that I really sat with myself and I was forced to ask myself, who am I without this sport? And it was really tough. I had to sit down with myself and self-reflect and, face my doubts and my insecurities straight in the face. And, I didn't really have the structure I was used to. During my injuries, I wasn't competing every day. I didn't know what my purpose was outside of soccer. It was a very struggling time. It took a lot of time. But I realized something more important, that I was an athlete, but that wasn't all I was. I had the leadership skills. I had a passion for helping others. I had the ability to take everything I learned from soccer, this great sport, and apply it in different areas of my life. If you were ever felt like your sport defines you, trust me, you're not alone. You're not alone. Your sport doesn't define you. It's what you do. It's not who you are. But you know what? I'm here to tell you, there's so much more to life. There's so much more to you than just the game that you play. So, what is athletic identity? What's the psychology behind it? Psychologists define it as the degree to which an individual identifies with the role of being an athlete. It's how you see yourself through the lens of your sport. And here's the thing. Having a strong athletic identity isn't a bad thing. I'm not sitting here, I'm not speaking to you and telling you that you should get rid of your athletic identity. No, it's still important to have. It is important to have as you're going through this chapter of your life. It's not a bad thing. In fact, I think it's one of the reasons why elite athletes are so successful, because having an athletic identity drives motivation, it drives commitment, and it drives discipline. 3 very important characteristics to have and develop as an athlete. But when it becomes your only identity, that's where I feel maybe some problems could arise down the line. And why do I say that? Why do I say potentially some problems can arise? Well, because sports are temporary. I hate to break it to you, but sports are temporary. You're never going to play a sport your entire life. One injury can lead to another. One cut from the team can lead to another. Maybe it's a graduation, and maybe suddenly that identity that you built over your entire life around you is gone. And that experience can leave athletes feeling empty, feeling lost, and sometimes even depressed. That's what happened to me. My entire life, I played soccer. Played soccer for my youth career in Chicago. Decided to go to the University of Wisconsin-Madison to play for the Badgers men's soccer team. Self-reflected with myself and realized that, having 3 hip surgeries before the age of 21, I, couldn't run the same. I was in constant pain. Every single time I stepped on the field, it just didn't feel right. My back was hurting. I was getting back issues, and I decided to, lace up the boots and retire from the sport. That, maybe it was time to start a new chapter in my life and to start a new career. Soccer for me wasn't the same after my injuries. I tried to gain back that passion and that happiness after, but, stepping on the field and being in excruciating pain every single time, it was hard to enjoy the game. But, that's where I self-reflected. And I said, you know what? This is one chapter of my life, and now I need to enter a different chapter of my life. How can I stay in sports but do something I love? And that's what I'm doing right now. Having founded TIMO Athletics Group, I'm doing something that I love. I'm doing something that I'm fulfilled with. I'm motivating, I'm inspiring, and I'm helping the younger generation of athletes achieve their dreams, work towards their goals. This is my athletic identity. This is an extension to my athletic identity, but most importantly, this is Tim's identity. If you're someone who feels like, your entire life revolves around sport, here are some warning signs that, that I have experienced that I would look out for. Feeling lost without sports. If you don't know what to do with yourself in the off season or after a game, I believe your identity might be too wrapped up in being an athlete. Struggling with self-worth, after a bad performance. Ask yourself this: do you ever feel like you're less valuable as a person when you don't perform well? That happened to me. After a bad performance, my day would be completely ruined. I struggled with self-worth after I played bad. And that's a sign that your confidence is, really tied to your sport. And the last one is fearing of what's next. Are you scared to think about life after sports? If the idea of retirement or injury terrifies you, it means you haven't built a strong identity outside of athletics. I felt the same way. I was so scared to, call retirement because I didn't know what I was going to do after. I didn't know what came after sports, what I was going to do to keep myself occupied, keep myself motivated, to keep myself, in a competitive environment. I was scared. I was alone. But that's where I talk about self-reflection, getting comfortable with solitude, being alone and reflecting on who you are and who you are beyond your sport. So if you fear what's next, if you fear what's going to happen to you after sports, I think you've built too strong of an identity in your sport and not outside of athletics. So that's something to think about. You have to expand your identity outside of sports. Building the whole athlete identity is not all it. You need to expand. You need to figure out who you are outside of your sport. So, how do you fix this? How do you build a sense of self that's bigger than just your sport? And here are my 4 key strategies. The first one is simply develop interests outside of your sports. What else do you enjoy beyond soccer? What else do you enjoy beyond football, beyond basketball, hockey, tennis, golf, water polo, pickleball? What do you enjoy? Maybe you love to write. Maybe you love to coach. I loved motivating. I loved coaching. So that's why I stepped into this sector. But maybe you enjoy business, music, or maybe it's just even helping others. Start to explore those interests now, even while you're still competing. You don't have to wait And I don't recommend waiting. Be proactive. Start to explore things that you enjoy outside of your sport. The second thing is start to see yourself as more than an athlete. Instead of saying, "Hi, I'm Tim Bialik and I'm a soccer player," try saying, "Hi, I'm Tim Bialik and I'm a hard worker," or "I'm a leader. I'm someone who never backs down from a challenge," or "Hi, I'm Tim Bialik and I'm maybe you're a father. Hi, I'm Tim Bialik and I'm a father of 3," or "Hi, I'm Tim Bialik and I'm an entrepreneur." Start to identify yourself beyond your sport. These qualities apply everywhere in life, not just your sports. All these things that you may identify yourself as, it's not always soccer or it's not always your sport. The third strategy is invest in yourself, invest in your relationships outside of sports. So too often, athletes only surround themselves with, teammates. I did that. That's what I did. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I love all my teammates. They're my best friends. But I was always surrounded by my teammates, and those were my only friends. While that's great, but I do have to say, make sure that you also connect and also network with people who see you not just for the athlete that you are, but for the person that you are. Not just the athlete version of you. Start to network. Start to join clubs outside of school. Try to find hobbies and connect and meet and find a friend group that doesn't see you for Tim Bialik as a soccer player or for you as a whatever sport you're playing player. I think that's super important. And the fourth strategy is think about your future now. Even if you have many years left in your sport, or maybe not, start thinking about what's next. What skills have you learned from sports that you can apply elsewhere? I always say this. Maybe you're really good at leading a team. Maybe leadership is your strength, teamwork, discipline. Try to explore these little areas and see how you can apply these outside of your sport. Because what I can tell you right now, these traits, for example, they're valuable far beyond the game that you play. The greats of all times, they know how to identify themselves outside of sports. Some well-known names that have been tremendously successful transitioning beyond their sport. Again, Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant, after retiring from basketball, he won an Academy Award for storytelling. He didn't just see himself as an athlete. He was a creator. He was a mentor and an innovator. Timmy Howard, after an incredible soccer career, he became a broadcaster and an analyst. He used his knowledge of the game to stay involved in a new way. Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck walked away from football at his peak, but he pursued a new passion, architecture, community development. These athletes, the greats, who did it, who played their sport all the way through and through the professional league. These athletes prove that while sports, yes, they are part of us, they're part of our lives, but they don't have to be the only thing that defines us, that defines you. I highly recommend looking more into, on this topic, Kobe Bryant, Tim Howard, Andrew Luck. Do some research. Look at their stories. All right, so I want to do a quick exercise for this podcast. My challenge to you is to write 5 words that describes you without mentioning your sport. Do not mention your sport. All right. So write 5 words down that describe you, that describes who you are. Think about that one skill from your sport that applies to other areas of your life. And then find one small thing you can do this week to expand your identity beyond athletics. I'll repeat it again. My exercise for you today on this episode is write down 5 words that describe you without mentioning your sport. Then think about one skill from your sport that applies to other areas of your life. And then after that, find one small thing you can do this week to expand your identity beyond athletics. Let me know how it goes. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in on today's podcast. That's a wrap. If this resonated with you, please subscribe to the podcast. We are posting every week, multiple episodes, multiple lessons, multiple motivators and inspirations on the TIMO podcast. Please subscribe, share it with your teammates, share it with your family members, share it with anyone going through, maybe it's difficult times, or maybe it's someone who wants more motivation, or it's someone who's looking for guidance. Please share this podcast with them, or go visit our Instagram at TIMO Athletics Group, or if you're looking for coaching on the field or off the field, or if you're even looking to achieve your dreams of playing soccer in college, I highly recommend visiting TIMOathleticsgroup.com. We are here for your development as an athlete. And remember, we're here to help you become a well-rounded athlete, one who thrives not only in just their sport, but in life. You're more than just an athlete. You're a leader, you're a competitor, a person with so much potential beyond the game. Keep it growing. And as always, everyone, I'll see you next time. Thanks.